Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Canon Chatter TV with me, Stephen. And tonight I am joined by my founder member of Canon Chatter, G. How are you, G?
You know what? I'm good. Last week was really busy. I was absolutely shattered after the weekend. I worked 7 days and then came home, obviously watched the game. And so, yeah, just been catching up on some sleep and obviously, working last 2 days and stuff. But yeah, no, I'm good. Obviously looking forward to the show. Can't wait to obviously get into the Leicester game and talk, or I say chat, all things Arsenal. How about yourself? How you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm good. I'm still feeling tired. It's kind of weird. I was putting Oliver to bed earlier on, and my two sons share a bedroom, and Oliver, their beds face each other. They like to be able to wake up and see each other and have a wee chat and whatever, and sort of it's the comfort of knowing each other's there. So I was lying in Josh's bed, while Oliver was obviously lying in his going to sleep. And honestly, I was almost for pulling the duvet over me and going for a wee sleep myself. It was so comfy. But yeah, no, other than that, I'm good. As you say, looking forward to tonight's show. Surprisingly, quite a bit to get through. Obviously, we've got the Leicester game, a couple other talking points in between, and then obviously we've got the Liverpool game coming up tomorrow night. 3 games in 6 days, I think it is, with obviously Villa at the weekend. So yeah, it's a big week for us. We've got off to a good start, which we'll talk about in a wee minute. But I think what we'll do, we'll play the intro video and we'll get into it.
Arsenal have gone through an entire league campaign without losing. The first time it's happened.
Okay, so as I say, welcome back to Canon Chatter TV. We decided to do something a little bit different tonight. Obviously, we've recently announced that we've added Keith to our presenter lineup. We've added Jim to he's going to be running our blog / website, just depending on which we go with, which we're in the process of working on at the minute. Obviously, we've got Lottie, as you all know, and then we have Martin, who does our graphics and stuff, and that's kind of our main team. Lots of other people sort of help us out, and lots of you guys come on and get involved and stuff. But like I said, we thought we'd do something different tonight, and that is we thought we'd just do a show with me and G.
Yeah.
Which it's been a while. And we are, for want of a better word, the Canon Chatter originals. And it's funny, it's just over a year since we started doing this, and how much has changed and how much we've grown and how much love and support we guys are getting from you. It's absolutely fantastic. I don't think we ever thought it was going to really be like this. I think we kind of had dreams that, people would tune in and really enjoy what we did, but I don't think we ever really fully expected to get the love and the support that we get, and we really appreciate it, so thank you. I think the biggest challenge for me and G is when it's just me and him, it's keeping the show length down, because we tend to sometimes forget that we're actually doing a show and just natter on like it's just me and him chatting. So it's good. It's good. Have you enjoyed the last year, G?
Yeah, it's been wicked. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy to think like about a year ago. Obviously, it all started with us. I don't even know how it started, but I know that we were both kind of commenting on the same story or the same tweet or whatever it was. And obviously going back and forth, with comments and stuff like that. And then I think it was me that DM'd you and said, yeah, really enjoyed that interaction, because up until that point, if I'm completely honest, I hadn't really used my Twitter to be kind of solely, to be honest, I wasn't very active. I kind of used it as more of a news tool. And anytime I did interact, it wasn't always the most positive. I found a lot of Arsenal fans or sections of Arsenal fans being quite toxic, being quite negative. So it was just refreshing, do you know what I mean? To speak to somebody, interact with somebody that I'd never met, and just kind of, have a difference of opinion, but be able to kind of hear out each other's, opinion and take on board, what each other was saying. So that's where the interaction started. Obviously, we started speaking after that. And yeah, the last year has just been amazing, really. from obviously getting to know each other, personally becoming really good friends, to obviously, launching the channel and having so many like absolutely fantastic and loyal viewers, people that we've kind of, grown to love and know, that kind of tune into the shows, interact with us in terms of our tweets, have actually appeared on the show themselves as guests, many of which, like us, have never done anything like this. So yeah, the whole experience has been great. Never really expected it to, become, what it is now. I think we both kind of came to terms and accepted the fact that, even if it was just me and you chatting on a Monday night or a Friday night and just talking football and talking Arsenal, and nobody tuned in ever, we said, we'd be happy to do that because it's just something that we love, something that we enjoy. But the fact that, so many people do support us, have supported us, have appeared as guests, tune in, week out, sometimes for an hour, 2 hours, in a time where time is precious. We've all got responsibilities, we all work, we've got families, etc., stresses of everyday life. So yeah, the last year has been an absolute blast, and I just hope that there are many more years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know obviously you and me have had many chats, and obviously the rest of the sort of the Canon Chatter team now are having chats about the future and what we want to do. And what I can sort of say now is that we all have great ideas for for more and more content, to the point that hopefully we may get to a point where there's something on every night on the channel,
100%, yeah.
which would be brilliant, because we want to just keep putting out quality content that you guys can enjoy. Some of it will be live, some of it will be recorded, but we want to do plenty of stuff, and keep that family sort of vibe going that we've got. For us, Canon Chatter is a family. We're building a family, we're building a community, whatever way you want to put it. But we want everybody to feel comfortable and included, and there to be something for everybody to watch or get involved with. We do loads of stuff. We have our fantasy football, we have the different social media accounts, so we do the stuff for charity, which we're going to start and do a bit more of going forward. So there's loads of things in the pipeline, and just want to say thank you so much to everybody that's sort of really got behind us and helped drive this forward over the last year. We really do appreciate it. So I'm just going to go to the comments and say good evening to the folks who have put their comments in so far, and then we'll get into talking about Sunday's game. So Lee, hi guys, hope everyone's doing well. We are indeed, Lee. How are you, mate? Russ, evening lads. Hope you're well. You're never going to get past this Emirates hell, are you?
Never.
Jamie, listening to the lads watching Champions League on RTE. It's the Irish network, just in case you're not familiar with it. It's Irish television. Hello, Stephen and G from Gary. How are you, Gary? Tom, evening lads. Hope you're well. Have you seen the Gabriel news missing from training today? Yeah, I seen that just before we came on. Now, something about potentially his missus is 9 months pregnant, so it could be, something to do with the birth of the kid and stuff. So we just, at the minute, we don't know. Fingers crossed he's available for tomorrow night, because he is such a massive part of that defence.
Yeah.
But we will come on to that later on. Lee, love being part of this family. Appreciate you and your support. Thank you, Lee. We appreciate that. So let's get into it. And obviously, 4:30 Sunday afternoon, we played Leicester at home. And straight away, I mean, we'll go straight into the lineup, which, forgot to hit the share button. Give me a wee sec. Which you predicted, bang on.
Yeah.
So obviously it was Ramsdale in goal. We had Cedric at left back, Gabriel and White, with Tierney at left back. Sorry, Gabriel was right back. Did I say left back? I can't remember. Too tired for all this. Party and 34 in midfield, with then Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, and Lacazette up top. I mean, the team is essentially picking itself at the minute.
Yeah.
And with such a small squad, you don't really see, you could argue something for Smith Rowe to potentially be in the starting lineup. And obviously, Tomiyasu, when he's fit, you would imagine would take that right back position. But other than that, is there really a question mark over anybody else in that starting 11? You know, is there an argument for any of them being dropped for somebody else in what we have remaining of the squad?
That's what I mean. Like, for me, I can't even really, you know, take much credit for picking the lineup, because, you know, I think it's pretty much exactly the same as the previous lineups that we've had, or very close to previous lineups that we've had from yourself, you know, Bobby, Lottie, etc. On the streams on the channel. So, and the other thing is as well, you know, whereas like in the past, you know, Arteta always kind of served up a curveball. We never really know what we was going to get. Based on his team selections and based on the performances of these 11 players, they're making it easy to predict the lineup. So yeah, in terms of this lineup, like, you know, when you look at it, like you said, it pretty much picks itself. Right now, we know there's an issue with Tommy at right back. But at the same time, you know, we know that we've got Cedric, who's playing, you know, number 2 in the right back position. But, you know, with all due respect, he's holding his own. You know, I think there's been a lot of question marks about, you know, his transfer to the club, and generally, like, some of his performances. He's been very much hit and miss. I wouldn't say he'd go down as like a bad signing or like one of the worst signings we've ever made, but there's definitely been question marks about him coming to the club and his performances at Arsenal so far. But I think at a time when we're pushing for top 4, every single game is key. I personally feel like he's done a really good job, a really, really good job, because I think, you know, the fact that we're not sitting here and talking about disaster classes of Cedric in matches or mistakes he's made where he's cost us goals is exactly what we want. We want a second choice right back to come in and be able to do a job. You know, your second choice is not always going to be as good as your first choice. Very few teams, you know, in the Premier League and in world football have that luxury. But he's doing exactly what we expect him to do, which is come in and play to the best of his ability. So yeah, other than him, when you look at the rest of that team, it picks itself. It's not rocket science. You know, Ramsdale and goal, the rest of the back 4, you know, Xhaka and Partey in the middle are forming, you know, dare I say, a formidable partnership at the moment. We look really, really solid in the middle. They kind of complement each other quite well. And as we know, they are our 2 best midfield options. So we can't really look elsewhere than those 2 in the midfield. Odegaard, I know we're going to get onto him, but mate, right now, I think he's the most informed player in the Premier League, hands down. And then when you look at the likes of, you know, Saka and Martinelli, the players that they're actually keeping out of the side, you know, Martinelli's keeping out an informed goal scoring ESR. You know, regardless of injuries and COVID and being in and out of the side, you know, very few fans will look at that lineup and actually question or have an issue with Martinelli being in the side over ESR. And that in itself is amazing, given ESR stats this season, being our top goal scorer. Saka's doing what Saka does, keeping, you know, obviously a rejuvenated Pepe from AFCON out the side. Most people will not raise an eyebrow. That's just based on his general performances. And Laka, look, 10 goal contributions in the last 11 games. I know 7 were assists and 3 have been goals. But for a man whose future is not certain, for a man whose best friend, you know, not too long ago left the club and he was given the armband at such short notice, I think he's absolutely playing phenomenal football. Probably some of the best football he's played at Arsenal since he came to the club. So yeah, that lineup for me, it picks itself. And I think, you know, there's a reason why it picks itself, and that's because of the performances on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of hard to argue with any of it. And I think you'd be hard-pressed to find an Arsenal fan that isn't happy with that lineup. 100%. You know, considering, as I say, with Tomiyasu out injured, you know, you naturally play your second choice right back, which is Cedric. So, I mean, other than that, much as I've sort of made issue with him before, and I'm not as big a fan with it. I'm obviously 34 and everybody knows that. I'm not trying to hide anything. I still arguably would pick him over Sambi.
Yeah.
Myself, you know, if I was in Arteta's position. So, you know, I can see the want for maybe the likes of Sambi to play. But I mean, you kind of wonder what's happened to Sambi. He hasn't had a minute this year, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think we've really seen him since the Forest game. Was that the last time potentially that was seen him play?
I think so. Yeah, I think in the shock defeat to Forest in the FA Cup, I think it might be. I might be wrong, but yeah, we've not seen him at all. And it is. I think I think there are some sections of the fan base that, are a little bit sad that we've not seen him, and probably wish that he would have more game time. But I don't fall into that category, to be honest. I was on quite a few streams last week and spaces on Twitter, and it was a hot talking point. And for me, I don't think Sambi was brought in to have, as much of an impact, or nowhere near as many minutes as he has had this season. And I think due to circumstances, he was kind of thrown in the deep end. And to be fair, the lad did his best. But right now, especially where we're like, we're at the end. This is like the kind of final stretch in terms of every game is a cup final. Every match is key. I'm really glad that at this precise moment, we're not relying on Sambi, because I dread to think if he put in one or two poor performances or cost us goals or was involved in incidents where we lost games, I dread to think, what the reaction would be. I think with the more experienced boys, like Partey, he's obviously coming into his own. We can definitely rely on him because he's showing his class right now. And I remember saying this, because I think a lot of people were doubting him. And I remember saying, listen, if Partey hits form, we easily get top 6. Fact, because he's that good a player. So I'm just glad he's in the side and he's doing well. And I think, you know what, if 34 does go on to cost us or drop points or anything like that, he's a big boy. It's not like he's not used to it. So I just think, and it's not necessarily that he's going to have a future at the club. So I'd rather it fall on the more experienced shoulders than on Sambi. Sambi's got a bright future at the club, and there's no reason why next season and seasons to come he's going to not be in and around the first team. But right now, in the money end of the season, I'm kind of glad that he's allowed to be on the sidelines, if I'm honest.
Okay. We'll read a couple more of these comments and then we'll move on. So Jamie and the plans of meetups on both sides of the water. Yeah, absolutely. I know I've been talking with Jamie about potentially doing something like a Canon Chatter get together over here for people over here. Potentially we're looking at maybe one of the matches, getting together in a bar somewhere and obviously doing a bit of a Canon Chatter get together. And I know obviously Jamie goes over to some of the games and has met up with the likes of Lottie and stuff, but potentially if I can get over as well, we'll maybe do something and do some sort of Canon Chatter meetup, which would be great. It will happen in the future, definitely, but just when. Jamie again, Flo just scored for Borough. Excellent. Starting to get amongst the goals there now, which is good news. Albert, good evening, lads. What a game to look forward to tomorrow. Could be the game of the season. Smash the likes, people. Thank you, Albert. And the IFT pod, is that you, Scott, or is that one of the boys, RJ, or I'm trying to remember the other. Oh, my apologies. There's 3 years, and it's the United fan. I'm trying to remember his name. If it is, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name at the minute, and I apologize. Very late, but you keep me in good company at work this morning. Just on Middlesbrough, it is Scott. Morning, Scott. Just on the Middlesbrough thing, obviously, very, very quickly, because I don't want to spend much time on it. Your take on Chelsea asking for Middlesbrough to play the game behind closed doors?
You know what? It's just ridiculous to me. Absolutely ridiculous. And I think when I saw it, I was kind of busy doing other things, and then I see it kind of pop up on the timeline, and I just thought, like, look at this club, the audacity of this club to talk about, playing this game behind closed doors on the grounds of sporting integrity. It's just laughable. And I think Middlesbrough basically, replied in, the exact right way that, Middlesbrough ought to, which was just to decline it, reject it, and basically just come out publicly and criticize Chelsea for even requesting it in the first place. And lo and behold, what did they do? A couple of hours later, they actually withdrew their requests because it was just absolutely laughable. These sanctions have taken place. If you actually look at like what the sanctions have taken place for, one could argue, it's about sporting integrity. And you know, for you to then, you know, try and, you know, play this game behind closed doors. You know, you've got a championship side here who, you know, are probably going to earn £500,000, £1 million from gate receipts, etc., for this match. And it's just the whole thing just left like a really bad taste in my mouth. And I'm just glad that the FA actually kind of stood up and were counted and actually just rejected the request. That kind of gave me a little bit of confidence because I don't have much confidence in them. But yeah, it's you know what it is? It's actions like this. Because I was having this conversation with, I think it was Tony from the Armory on one of the tweets that I put out, because I made a mockery of all the stuff Chelsea were doing today. And I said, you know what? I said, I don't have nothing against, you know, Chelsea Football Club and Chelsea fans and certain sections of Chelsea fans. But I think it's actions of some sections of the fan base. You know, for example, we all know that Chelsea fans love Abramovich. Politics aside, they love Abramovich. We get that. We can understand that. I can completely understand it. However, you know, there's something called class. You know, there's something called class and there's something called decency. And at the end of the day, these sanctions were put in place for reasons outside of football. So when you're at a football ground and, you know, the club have asked, you know, the stadium of Chelsea fans to dedicate, you know, a minute's silence or a minute's applause to the victims of Ukraine, you shut your mouth and you respect that. Like, you don't chant the name of Abramovich. Like, it's just classless. It's just horrible. And then when you see the actions of the actual football club in terms of this, you know, like today, it's the reason why there are lots of rival fans out there that have very little, if no sympathy for Chelsea fans. And it's because of things like this. So yeah, I wasn't impressed when I saw it. I was thrilled with the way Middlesbrough and their chairman actually came out publicly and basically just, you know, said it was ridiculous. And I'm so glad that the FA, you know, echoed that and rejected the claim. Well, Chelsea withdrew before it was rejected, or whichever way around it was. But yeah, it should never come in, really.
I have to say, I mean, I'm guilty of kind of initially sort of going, I don't really see what the problem is here. They're offering to not let fans into the stadium. It wasn't until sort of a wee bit later that I actually realised that Middlesbrough were the home team.
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden I realised what the uproar was about. You know, like, absolute joke.
You're asking Middlesbrough fans to not watch probably the biggest game of their season because you've been sanctioned. It's just ridiculous on the grounds of sporting integrity.
It's like I said the other day, though. You know, it's the everyday workers at Chelsea I feel for, because you know, and they're not all Chelsea fans. That's the thing. You know, there's people who be working at that club that don't support Chelsea. Likewise, you know, there's people that work at Arsenal that don't support Arsenal. I mean, sure, our old social media admin used to be a Southampton supporter. You know, it was quite widely known that, you know, so these things happen. So I feel sorry for them. But as for the fans and stuff, as you say, chatting about Abramovich and the club themselves, I mean, the club themselves have always been like school in summer, no class, you know, as you say. So, you know, but anyway, we'll move on. That was just a quick side note. So obviously, playing Leicester kicked off. For me, I mean, I was going to say for the first 10 minutes, you know, up until the first goal, we were pretty good. But I think realistically for the whole match, apart from sort of a 15-minute spell at the end of the first half where Leicester sort of were getting back into it a bit, we pretty much controlled the game. Whilst they actually had more possession, I still think we controlled the game, if that makes sense.
Yep.
We certainly had more shots and stuff, although they had more corners and things like that. But we never looked really that threatened, apart from one or two. I think I remember Ramsdale making 2 saves in the game. And, you know, there wasn't much really to worry about. But so I don't want to spend a massive amount of time on the actual game itself. We'll do a quick sort of talk about a couple of goals and we'll sum the whole thing up, and then we'll sort of move on. So I want to talk obviously about Partey's goal. Now, Partey's someone who we've all sort of wondered, is he ever going to get up to the speed of the Premier League? You know, is he going to get away from all the injuries and do what we bought him to do? and he's starting to become that player that we spent the 45 million on. His goal was, I'm just glad he wasn't shooting from long range. He seems to be all right with his head. So if we can just stick to him getting headers, we'll be okay. What was your feelings on the whole thing? How are you feeling when the ball hit the back of the net?
Yeah, I was absolutely thrilled. Like, for me, this game was a potential banana skin. I wasn't massively confident about playing Leicester, and I don't know whether that's because I'm thinking of Leicester from last season, or the inconsistent Leicester from this season, or maybe it's the trauma of being an Arsenal fan all these years. I don't know, but I wasn't massively confident going into this game. But yeah, this goal was it was a simple goal. Do you know what I mean? It was a nice set. It was a nice corner. Great ball into the box. He lost his. I don't even think the guy who he was going up against in the air was the man that was originally marking him. He lost his marker completely. Obviously jumped to the near post and slotted it in. I'm just really happy for him, because when we signed him, both of us were absolutely thrilled. It was really exciting. It was like a deadline day release clause thing. I've never said really a bad word about him. Obviously, I've criticized his performances, but he came under a lot of stick, and probably rightly so. He came into the club for big money. He didn't basically live up to obviously the price tag, but not just the price tag, the profile of a player that we knew he was. Absolutely bossing the midfield in La Liga for Atletico Madrid. One of the main ingredients why they've been so successful in recent years on the pitch, international level, doing his thing. Not seen him too much playing for Ghana, but when I have, absolutely doing his thing in the international stage as well. So I was always confident that he was going to eventually shine through. Like, his quality and his class was going to shine through. I didn't have a shadow of a doubt. I was just very disappointed at how long it's actually taken him to do it. But look, now he's found his form. He is one of many players that, he's one of the first names on the team sheet right now. In terms of a very young side, he's very experienced. He's a lot older than a lot of the other lads, played in a lot bigger games, with quality, teammates, quality opposition. So yeah, it's just a good feeling, and I think you could tell he really enjoyed that goal. It was a simple goal, but it was a much needed goal in a big game. It was really important that we made a really good start and got a goal early. And it's something that we deserved, from the first minute. We were the better side. We bossed the game. And as you said, other than 10, 15 minutes at the end of the first half, Leicester City weren't really in it. They had a few chances, I think, notably Harvey Barnes. I think the two saves you're on about, both were from Harvey Barnes. And obviously there was the last-ditch tackle from Ben White on Maddison, where they could have potentially scored. But yeah, other than that, we defensively, we were sound. We were absolutely sound. But yeah, Partey, absolute, just a really dominant, slick performance. That's literally what it was. It was dominant and it was slick. There were so many times that he got on the ball, and he just did the right thing with it. It wasn't like he dribbled past like 3, 4, 5 men or etc. But he just did the right thing with the ball at the right time. Absolute dominant performance. So yeah, I was thrilled with his performance against Leicester.
Yeah, he's massively come on. There was a moment in I think it was the second, I'm pretty sure it was the second half, where he's in and around sort of the centre circle, and there's two players coming towards him, and he did what can only be described as a gangly leg turn.
Yeah.
Where his legs just looked like they were all over the place, but he managed to turn and completely lose both players.
Yeah.
He sent them both to the chippy. He really did. And all I could think was, it kind of reminds me of, not that he is as good as or is the same player as, but he reminds me of this type of player, Patrick Vieira and Diaby.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's almost like a combination of the two.
Yeah, it's
somewhere in between.
Yeah, he's not as good defensively as the likes of Vieira is. I would argue he's potentially better than Diaby, but we never got to see the full potential of Diaby because of the injuries.
Yeah.
But it's just that sort of big gangly leg turns but he just absolutely rinsed them, and it was such a joy to watch. I don't know if you've seen it as well. There was a clip going around on Twitter today, and I'm not sure if it's a recent interview where they asked him who he liked to pretend to be when he was a kid in the playground.
No, I've not seen it.
Have you not? Yeah, they asked him, and he said, "Who did you say you were? When you were a kid playing football in the playground?" He said, "Didier Drogba."
Okay.
They said, "If you weren't a footballer, what would you have been?" He said, "Michael Essien," which I thought was a brilliant answer.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is one that he's really, he's winning over the doubters as well. As you said, it's taken a bit longer than we expected. We're now almost 2 seasons into having him, but he's starting to show that quality. So
definitely.
All right. So yeah, I mean, as I say, first half we were pretty dominant, apart from the last 15 minutes where I thought they were starting to get back into it. Second half came out, and we just, I mean, for me, the second half we completely controlled. It was pretty much a complete performance in terms of how to play football. Yes, they had possession, and as I say, overall they had the larger percentage of possession for the game, but we controlled the game. And obviously, the next sort of talking point then was obviously the penalty incident. For me, when I seen it, I kind of thought, first look at it, I was like, you can't give that. There's no, you just can't see it. And they kept playing it back, and even the first few times the replay, I was like, I can't see that that's a penalty. But then there's one particular angle where you can clearly see the change of direction of the ball. The party heads the ball on the Xianchu or whatever he's called, and it hits his hand, and you can clearly see the direction of the ball changes. The flight of the ball changes, and obviously then it was cleared off the line anyway. But VAR called over the referee, and he went to the screen and did not look happy about having to give Arsenal a penalty.
Yeah, not at all.
And obviously then Lacazette stepped up and stuck it in the back of the net, and Kasper Schmeichel complained, as he does. I don't think anybody's ever scored a goal past Kasper Schmeichel that he hasn't thought shouldn't have counted.
Yeah. He's got he's got his dad's competitive nature, don't he?
Yeah, he's always complaining. And I was sort of watching it going, well, yeah, you could argue a couple of the players, encroached on the area, but you could also then say that he was a yard off his line. So, it was a difficult one. But, I mean, what was your take on the whole penalty situation?
Yeah, just one sec. It sounds like, from my end, a little bit robotic. I don't know if anybody in the chat can hear that too. Just let me know because I think it might be my internet. It's just that when you're speaking, Stephen, it's coming across a little bit robotic. Let us know if you can hear Stephen properly, because if not, I might just try and jump out and jump back in. But yeah, I got the gist of what you were saying. In terms of the penalty, for me, when it happened, I had no idea. I saw some half-hearted kind of appeals, and I couldn't really see what they were appealing for. And it's like you said, for me, I couldn't see that it was a penalty. In real time, I can't really blame the ref, because in real time, I couldn't see the incident. I think Lacazette and maybe one other player put their hand up, but I wasn't necessarily sure. I think they were more kind of, I didn't notice, or no problem. Maybe it's mine. But yeah, I noticed a couple of hands up. But when their hands initially went up, I thought they were trying to say that. I thought they were trying to appeal before the ball had crossed the line, because I know when it gets that close, sometimes you want to just like appeal before it's even crossed the line. So I thought that's what they were appealing for, that the ball had crossed the line. But when I was watching the game, it was obvious the ball hadn't crossed the line. Then obviously the game stopped. You could see the Arsenal players, going up to the ref, and you kind of thought, okay, there was more to this than meets the eye. But personally, as much as we've criticised VAR, and we've had all right to criticize VAR as Arsenal fans over the last, season and a half, etc. But without VAR, that penalty is not given. Like, absolutely not given, because they kept playing it and playing it and playing. I kept saying to myself, this is not a penalty. Like, I couldn't really understand what they were looking for. And then it was only when, like you said, they showed a certain angle, you could see the ball actually touch the geezer's hand, and you could see the ball, you know, change direction. But you could even see the way the hand flicked away from contact, you know, with the ball. So for me, obviously, once I saw that, it's a guaranteed penalty, isn't it? The ball's hit his hand, is a big game. 2-0. I know at 2-0, this game's dead. We're in a really good position. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a penalty all day. But I have to admit, without VAR, I think that penalty is impossible to give, because I don't think the referee was in a position to see it. I think it was too quick. And to be honest, I don't even think the Arsenal appeal was even that strong. I think without VAR, you know, week in, week out, that penalty kind of claim just gets waved away, you know, 9 out of 10 times. You'd have to be pretty 20/20 vision and in a really good position to kind of, you know, see that as a stonewall penalty. That's just my opinion, but yeah, I'm glad it was given. I'm glad he went to the screen, and once they went to the screen, we kind of knew it was going to be given. But I think what was brilliant is, like you said, they looked at it so many times because they wanted a reason to not give the penalty. And if you actually see the reaction of the ref's face in comparison to the lady sitting behind him in the crowd, I don't know if you saw that picture. It is absolutely brilliant, like literally brilliant, because like she's gobsmacked that Arsenal actually got a decision in favour of, you know, from VAR, and the ref just looks absolutely gutted at the fact that he's got to give it. So yeah, you know what? I don't care how it was given or why it was given, but yeah, it was a penalty, and I'm glad Laka stepped up and absolutely dispatched it to make it 2-0.
Well, what do you think of the fact that Shianshu, forgive my pronunciation of that he didn't get sent off?
You know what? I think the only reason why they couldn't send him off, well, the only reason why I think they didn't send him off is because I don't think that they felt that the contact that Partey got on the ball was actually going to steer the ball goalwards, because of the player who was kind of tracking back and getting back in time. So it's one of those 50-50 ones where, you know, obviously, you know, the handball changes the direction of the ball. It probably takes a little sting off the ball, and there is a chance that you know, that header was going goalwards. But I think when you look at it, because as soon as the penalty was given, I was like, well, that's got to be a red card. It's got to be a red card, you know, according to the rule book. But I think when you look at it and you kind of take all the circumstances and you put a bit of context in it, I think the Leicester City player that was tracking back on the line would have actually got to that chance anyway. And I can only assume that's the reason why they've yellow carded him and not giving him the red card. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what Dermot Gallagher said today on Sky Sports News. My only sort of thought was, you know, the fact that there was a comment after one of the matches where I think it was the one against, pretty sure it was the one against Everton, where Tomiyasu was stamped on.
Yes.
And Dermot Gallagher came out and said afterwards, well, you know, you have to be 100% sure there was intent.
Yeah. I remember that one.
You know, surely you have to be 100% sure that the defender was going to clear that.
Yeah.
You know, and how can you be 100% sure the defender's going to do anything? Because the defender could have slipped and fell on his arse.
Yeah.
The ball was in the net. So there's no way to be 100% sure. So again, it kind of, I know I'm being petty here, but again, you know, potentially Shianshu staying on the pitch, we could have maybe scored another 2 or 3 if he was off. You just don't know, you know.
Okay,
so
they could have got back into the game and potentially got a result, you know, with 11 men on the pitch.
Yeah.
You know.
So you kind of think that, you know, again, it's still that lack of consistency with refereeing.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read out some of these comments. Scott saying, bang on, Stephen. The everyday people are suffering too, and some of the genuine fans. It could have been us if Usmanov was successful. Obviously, that's just in reference to what I was saying about the Chelsea and some of their, their staff and stuff not being fans or whatever. Just on the Usmanov thing, obviously Usmanov was involved with Everton. Did you see that Dominic? Oh, he's gone. So I'll just talk to everybody else. Did you see today that Dominic Calvert-Lewin managed to pick up 3 points for Everton? Albeit it was for a driving offence, but at least they've got 3 more points than they had before. Lee, audio seems fine. Stephen is a robot, isn't he? I didn't notice audio issues. I am a robot, yes. G, it's probably your Wi-Fi. Turn the crank 10 more times.
I just jumped out and jumped in and see if it was going to make a difference. You know what? It's a bit sporadic. It's like sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't. So I definitely think it's mine. So yeah, I just jumped out and jumped in, see if it will make a change.
Do you need me to send you 50p for the Wi-Fi box?
Yeah, I forgot to pay the direct debit.
Lee, I didn't see it live. 2 replays, I was convinced. Love VAR. 2-0 goals and none from open play. It's great the 2-0 wins would be 4-0 on a good day. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. 2 set pieces, which is great. Double jeopardy rule, I think. Not deliberate handball, but definitely a penalty. Okay. John, Calvert-Lewin getting. Okay, so yeah, I was just saying when you went off that obviously Calvert-Lewin picked up 3 points for Everton today.
Sorry, say that again.
Calvert-Lewin picked up 3 points for Everton today. He got a speeding fine.
Oh, I didn't see that either.
Yeah, he got a speeding fine this morning.
Okay.
It was something ridiculous, like a £900 fine plus 3 points for speeding. So, all right. So, yeah, let's just sum it up. Sum up your feelings on the game and the overall performance.
You know what? Like I said, I wasn't confident going into this game. When we was on our stream, I believe it was on Friday. I think Bobby was definitely really, really confident. And I think a lot of the people in the chat were kind of predicting convincing wins, etc., etc. But for me, I wasn't. I really saw this match as a potential banana skin. Just because regardless of how Leicester are playing, they got some quality players. But I have to admit, I've been impressed so many times, over the last kind of 10, 11 games. You know me, Stephen. I've been very critical of Arteta at the beginning of the season. I've been very critical of this team over the season. I could see the progression that was being made defensively, but I just couldn't see the progression, when we had the ball and what we were doing as an offensive unit. But I tell you now, I'm seeing it. My eyes are open and I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it with my own eyes. I really, really am. So, yeah, I was massively impressed with the performance. I really was. I thought I put up a tweet after the game and I put dominant and slick. And for me, that's what it was. It was a professional performance, against a very tricky side, Leicester, because, you could see in that 10, 15-minute spell that they had at the end of the first half, if you're not on your game and you're not defensively tight, they will score. They've got players that can hurt you. But we were tight. We managed the game so well from when we had the ball, what we were doing with it, to when we didn't have the ball, and our defensive structure, throughout the team. I was very impressed. The performance was dominant. It was slick. It was professional, and it was exactly what Arsenal fans, what we're looking for in a performance from our side. Obviously, with so few games to go, and with all the games being so crucial. So yeah. Hats off to Arteta and the Arsenal squad. I think the last 11 games, we're the most informed team in European football. And I tell you, that is no mean feat. It's no mean feat. When you're looking at the teams in Europe, let alone not in Europe, just in the Premier League, the likes of Liverpool and Man City, and we're picking up more points than them over the last 11 games. That's not accident. That's just not a coincidence. That's is proofs in the pudding. In terms of those 11 matches, and of the games we've lost or drawn, arguably we should have won both. So it's a phenomenal turnaround. It really is, and I'm very impressed with both Arteta and the squad of players. And for me, that performance was just yet again another solid performance that the boys have put in, where I've gone into it being quite doubtful, but they've completely, answered, my doubts or doubts that I had. So yeah, very impressed with them.
Yeah. I would say, obviously you're absolutely right in terms of the, most informed side in Europe over the last 11 games and whatever. And I know there's people who will say that, well, look at the opposition. It's been a lot of sort of lower Premier League teams that we've been playing. But at the same time, two things on that. You can only beat what's in front of you. So we can only beat the teams that we are currently playing. There's nothing we can do about that. And two, we have seen, teams high up in the league, and in the sort of the top 6 and 7 losing to these teams. So the Premier League is a lot more competitive in that you do see a lot more upsets in the Premier League than you maybe would in any other league in Europe. So it is a phenomenal achievement. Arteta has got them playing well. All of a sudden, we've gone from, we were both critical of Arteta earlier on the season, saying, we might be getting results, but it's just not fun to watch.
Yeah,
it just wasn't interesting, and we were coming on here kind of dragging our hair, going, what do I want to talk about? Because that was just really dull. To all of a sudden, the football's entertaining, the football's exciting. We're creating chances. I mean, we must have had 20 odd chances in that game. And you just kind of think to yourself, good as Lacazette is in terms of his hold-up play and bringing others into the game, what would we be like if we had a striker, an informed striker, who was putting the ball in the back of the net?
Yeah, 21 shots on goal, I think we had in that match.
Yeah. If we had got someone like Vlahovic, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing with that, but if we had someone like that in January, now, the thing with it is, we can sit here and say that, wouldn't it be great? I mean, the reality is we haven't lost a match since the first Premier League match, since the first game of the new year against Man City.
Yeah.
So, in reality, we've won the last 5 in a row. So, yes, it would be great to have that striker. We don't necessarily need them right now because we're winning games.
Yeah.
But when it gets to the games that are just a wee bit nip and tuck, a wee bit edgy,
like
having that clinical striker will make all the difference. So yes, I mean, it's all very well and good. And I'm seeing a lot of talk now about Lacazette being offered a new deal, and people all of a sudden going, yeah, we need to sign Lac up again. We all sat here and said, no, Lac needs to go at the end of the season. We need someone else. And whilst he has been playing well and, contributing, as you say, 10 goal contributions in his last 11 games, or his 11 in his last 10, at the same time, 10, at the same time, what would a clinical striker have done in that same time with the amount of chances that are being created? So whilst I'm enjoying watching Lacazette play, I don't necessarily think I want to see him offered a high value contract and not sign a top quality striker.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but overall, I mean, the game, as I've said at the start, we controlled the game pretty much from start to finish, apart from that sort of 15-minute spell towards the end of the first half. I never really was that worried at any point that they were going to get back into it. I thought we were pretty comfortable. I was surprised, and we're going to come on to it in a wee minute, by the timing of the substitutions. I thought they could have been a wee bit earlier because, some of the players were starting to get a wee bit tired. But we'll talk about that in a wee second. But overall, I mean, another pleasing performance. It's getting better week on week. The performances are getting better and better. And this is now the sort of standard we need to see every week. And if we get that sort of standard, I mean, you look at the difference between the game against Leicester compared to the game against Watford. Yes, against Watford, we scored 3 brilliant goals, but defensively we were shocking. Whereas on Sunday we were brilliant in defence. The defence were outstanding. They kept Leicester, completely under control. There was not, you were never concerned that they were getting back into that game. And that's what we need to see every week now. And if we don't, if we play like we play against Watford, we're going to struggle. If we play like we play against Leicester, we potentially could win virtually every match between now and the end of the season.
Yep.
And that's the reality of it, is that one bad day could cost us again. So we just have to be careful, keep the standards up, and keep going. So I say we are going to touch on something else just to do with the subs in a wee second, but I'll just go back and quickly read through these comments again. We've got to Jim, evening Jim, how are you? For those of you in the chat that don't know, Jim is going to be heading up our blog / website / whatever we want to call it. Once we get it up and running, I'm working on that at the minute. But Jim's going to be editor-in-chief writer for that, and we're so glad to have him on the team now. Jamie, Darren Fletcher booked on Champions League night. Some things never change. Irony is the ref was so reluctant to give cards in the gameplay. United almost out of the Champions League. Are we happy, Gary? Gia, are we happy?
We was talking about this, innit, before we jumped on the stream. Yeah, I don't know. I got mixed feelings because I was also talking about this with my son earlier. For me, obviously, it's a 50-50 because obviously, I want Man United to have a busy schedule because I think, the more Man United are distracted by other competitions or other games, the better. At the same time, you don't really want them going too far in the Champions League because, as it gets closer and closer, people might say, United won't win it. You got Madrid, you got this, you got that in there. Listen, when it gets to the knockout stages, anybody can win it. Some years you do get really poor teams that you don't expect to win the Champions League can win it. It's a cup. At the end of the day, it's a cup competition. So I don't know if they're actually out at this point, or if they've managed to get a draw. I don't actually know what the score is, but it's one of those things where, look, you know what, it would have been nice maybe if they'd gone on to at least the next round and lost in the semis, if not the final. But if they're out, they're out. It is what it is. Man United in the mud, in it. It doesn't really matter either way. They're out. There you go.
Lost 1-0.
There you go. Man United in the mud. It's all good. To be honest, like, looking at their form and so forth, I'm not really too bothered about Man United. Obviously, they've got class players. Cristiano and Ronaldo showed that against Spurs, but I just don't think, when you look at the two teams, I just don't think they're gonna do it consistently enough to actually cause us a problem in the running. I think the other teams in and around Man United that people are talking less about are potentially more of a threat to our top four than Manchester United. But yeah, the fact that they're out in it is what it is. I've got a couple of texts I need to send after the stream.
Jim, what's a good score tomorrow? I think they've looked vulnerable despite good results. We're going to come on to that obviously in a few minutes. Jim, I always like other sides to stay in cups so they're tired out for the league. Gary, I'm enjoying the football, non Marteta thing, not a no other thing. Not a what if Jan window thing. It's an Arsenal thing. Come on, you Gunners. Last minute corner for Tud to draw it. Hopefully not. Oh, United. Right. Is done. Jim, yes, good man. No time for politics. Just enjoy the football, whoever's on the pitch. Gary, Simeone running off the pitch as fans try to pelt them. And Jim laughing. Jamie, Saka getting kicked constantly. And we were much better with the possession, especially in the second half. From Lee and Gary, I don't get much, but Saka getting kicked pisses me off. Where's our bouncer to sort opponents out? We let him go for free in January. Big Kalashnik.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, something I wanted to sort of touch on very briefly. This was to do in terms of, obviously it actually involves Saka. And the substitutions, and that was Arteta has brought on against Leicester Nicolas Pepe with 5 minutes to go. He brings Saka off and Pepe on. Now, Pepe's come back from AFCON, and Arteta has come out and publicly stated that he's seen a different player. And he's a different player in training. He's really enjoying his football again, and he's really getting involved. And it's completely different to what he's been, and he's loving this new attitude of Pepe. He's brought him on a couple of games. I think he got a goal potentially in one of them, if I remember right.
Yeah, against Wolves, I think it was.
Yeah, and he's looked dangerous. You know, he's looked lively and he's looked dangerous and he's looked like he wants to be involved in the games. And yet he only got 5 minutes. When you know, Saka, as people are rightly saying, was getting kicked all over the pitch and looked like a man or a boy who just needed to go and sit down. You know, he needed a rest. And yet Pepe comes on with 5 minutes to go. Realistically, at this point, what do you think's happening with Pepe? And where do you think he's going to be come the start of next season? Is he still going to be an Arsenal player, or do you think his time's done?
It's you know what? It's a really hard one, because I feel like with this whole Pepe situation, apart from the back end of last season when he was scoring for fun, I just feel like this is the conversation we've had about this guy since he's joined Arsenal. In all honesty, I don't know what's going on, to be honest. You know, we know there's a player in there. And you know, Pepe, just like the whole Partey situation, you know, I was a massive fan of bringing Pepe to the club. I'm not going to sit here and go back on what I said. And I still feel as though, you know, Pepe is the type of player that can have and should have a future at Arsenal Football Club. But I think a lot is going to depend on Pepe himself, and a lot's going to depend on Arteta, because realistically, I can't legitimately see Arteta or any Arsenal fans being in favour of Saka being dropped for Pepe, unless it's on a rotation basis, where obviously, you know, at the end of the day, we've got Liverpool tomorrow night. And let's face it, if we saw Pepe in the starting lineup and not Saka, our first instinct would be Saka's injured, or why the hell is Pepe playing? Like, I think a lot of us would react like that. It wouldn't necessarily be like, oh yeah, you know, oh yeah, Pepe's there. I think Arsenal fans would react more negatively to seeing Pepe in that lineup than if they saw ESR over Martinelli. I feel as though with the whole ESR Martinelli thing, I think Arsenal fans don't really mind who they see on that left wing. But I think on the right wing, I think it's very different. I'm not sure. I think there'll be a certain section of Arsenal fans that would be happy to see it, but most of us would probably raise an eyebrow. I'm not sure how I'd feel, to be honest, because I am very aware that, you know, Saka is playing a lot of football. As you know, it said in the comments, you know, he is getting kicked about. He looked absolutely wiped out, you know, before he got subbed against Leicester. At the same time, in that game, him and Odegaard link up was absolutely phenomenal at times. So it's a very difficult situation, and it's a very sensitive and difficult situation for Arteta to manage between now and the end of the season. And I think the reason why this is become more of a kind of glaring issue is because we don't have that many games. You know, if you take away this week where we've got 3 games in 6 days, other than that, we're playing once a week, sometimes once every 10 days. So there isn't the games for us to chop and change. There isn't a need to chop and change. Saka's not being forced to play Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday. You know, he can actually play once a week. I think if we were in the FA Cup, Carabao, you know, Europe, etc., whatever the cups were, if we had more games, I think you would definitely see more rotation. And I think if you're going to see Pepe in this team, you're going to see him in the team over the next kind of 4-5 days against Liverpool and Villa. If we don't see Pepe against Liverpool, which I don't think we will, but I think if we don't see him against Villa on Saturday 12:30 kickoff, then I really don't know what's happening to him. I can't envision him being at the club past the summer, because for him as a player, he must have, you know, ambitions to play football. You know, whether that be at Arsenal, whether that be at another club. And in terms of his contract, you know, he doesn't have, you know, 4, 5, 6 years left on his contract. You know, I think I'm not sure when it is, but you know, if he's got a future at the club, at some point, Arsenal and his representatives are going to have to sit down and start to kind of, renegotiate the terms of that contract. And right now, based on his, performances, based on the minutes he's getting, is there really a legitimate argument to kind of keep him keep him at the club, given the wages he's on, given how much he's cost? So I'm gonna firmly stay on the fence with this one, because I really don't know what's going on with Pepe. I'd love him to stay at the club. I'd love him to be a success, but I think Saka has basically cemented that right wing, that right wing position. I do think whether it's Pepe or whether it's somebody else coming into the club, we still do need to have a quality right wing number 2, somebody to compete for that position, because the last thing we need is for Saka to become complacent. Not saying he will be, but that's the last thing we need. We need that competition for places. So yeah, I really don't know, Stephen. I don't know. I can't help you more than that. What about you? What do you think the situation is?
I don't know. I'm kind of the same as yourself, and I said it before. There was another stretch where he wasn't getting games, and I said, if he doesn't play this week, he'll never play for the club again. And I think that was just sort of over Christmas time. Yeah. And obviously coming on the January window, and sure enough, he played in the next game. He didn't play the whole game, but he came on. More evidence that Arteta watches the show and listens to our feedback. I do think I think realistically we do have to have a little bit of rotation over the next couple of games. I don't think we can go that same starting 11 3 games in a row in 6 days. I think it's a bit much. Pepe as a player, he's a good player. It's not his fault he came with the price tag, and I think we've always been guilty of sort of expecting so much more because of the money that was paid for him. If he had come to the club and cost 20, 30 million, we wouldn't put the pressure on him. We wouldn't expect the same from him.
Yep.
And it's the price tag has been to his detriment. So I don't know. I know we were kind of, before obviously we came on, had a bit of a thing going in our Cannon Chatter sort of group, which Jim had sort of pointed out a link today with Eden Hazard, the Arsenal. We all kind of were of the same no thanks, and I got into a bit of a conversation just in terms of do we need another winger, which I thought was quite funny because I knew we were going to be talking with Pepe tonight. We are still being linked with wide players. And when you consider we've got, as you say, Martinelli, Saka, and Smith Rowe, who I think, with the form of Odegaard, who will come on to in a wee sec, is very much now being looked at as a sort of more left-sided midfield, left-sided wing player. We maybe need to potentially bring in another right-sided winger to compete with Saka, but only if Pepe's going. But the fact that
go on.
Sorry?
Yeah, for me, Pepe's got to fight for his place. Do you know what I mean? Like he's got to fight for his position. At the end of the day, like he's going to go to very few clubs where unless he takes a step down, where he's going to be guaranteed first team football. So it's really for Pepe to fight for his position. And when he does get his opportunity, absolutely take it, and then give Arteta that selection headache. Because at the end of the day, he's not going to be, unless he goes to like a Newcastle or somewhere like that, he's not going to be guaranteed first team football in any top European club. So he just needs to pull up his socks and just, when he does get his chance, absolutely take it, which he did against Wolves. And then obviously just fight for his place. But I think somebody said it in the comments, he does need more minutes. Because at the end of the day, he can't show us, this rejuvenated Pepe unless he's on the pitch.
Absolutely. But what I was just sort of saying was that, Martinelli's going nowhere. ESR's going nowhere. Saka's going nowhere. We know that. These boys are the future of the club. So if we're being linked with another winger, the only thing is that potentially, they are looking at Pepe going and bringing somebody else in to fill that spot in the squad. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. We've obviously 11 more games left. I think it is. It's 12 more games left.
I think 12 now. I think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, how many minutes he gets between now and the end of the season.
Mm.
So I'll read these comments and then we'll move on again. We've got to Gary saying Ajax almost tied it up, shot from penalty spot, stopped by goalkeeper offside anyways. On Pepe, not a starter, but he needs more minutes. Arteta said he's doing what he needs to do. Show us then. Absolutely. Jim, the usual Manny red card elbow that just gets a Stern look instead, obviously for tomorrow night. Yes, G, I would expect Pepe to start along with whoever doesn't start, ESR or Martinelli. Player rotation is actually a thing, Arteta. Pepe has shown enough flashes of brilliance to get games, but he's got to listen to the manager if he wants to play. Okay. So, someone you mentioned earlier on, and we obviously know we're going to talk about this, is this guy, Martin Odegaard. And I just want to sort of get a very quick sort of summary of what it feels like to eat a bit of humble pie.
Mate, you know what? This guy absolutely proves me wrong. Like, I'm a big enough boy to admit it. Just to kind of give you a bit of context, you know what? I was always a fan of Martin Odegaard. He burst on the scene as, somewhat what they call a wonder kid. And personally, I think he made the wrong choice by going to Madrid when he did at the age he was. It was too big a move at too young an age. And I think, if anything, it stunted his development. So once he'd gone to Madrid, and I didn't really pay much attention to his career. I know he had a couple of successful loans to like Zaragoza or Sociedad, or I think it was Sociedad he went to. And obviously came to us, on loan in January of last season. And to be honest, apart from a few, performances here and there, I thought he was pretty much inconsistent. But to be fair, that probably was really unfair because, he's coming from another league, new culture, new environment, etc., etc. He had an injury. So it wasn't, it wasn't enough time or fair amount of time to really judge him as a player. But I personally did not want him to sign for Arsenal. Out of him and Maddison, who we were both linked with, I was in favour of the Maddison signing. I'm a big enough boy to admit that. Some Arsenal fans might not be, but I'm going to own it. I wanted Maddison over Odegaard. However, the season has started, and it wasn't a great start to the season, not necessarily for Odegaard, for the whole club. And I just think Odegaard was just one of many players that, were finding their feet, etc., etc. But yeah, listen, this guy has massively proven me wrong. And he's doing things with a football that I've not seen an Arsenal player do with a football for a considerable amount of time. He's one of those players that excites me, excites the fans. His link-up play, his touches, his vision, all of it. You know what? It's hard to even put into words how good he's been, over the last couple of weeks or so. You could argue and say, it's very close even between him and Partey, who should have actually won, Player of the Month. I know it went to Partey. I think previous month it went to Odegaard. But, you could argue that it could have gone to him. As I said earlier in the show, I don't watch a lot of other teams. I watch highlights, goals here and there. But for me, he's got to be up there in terms of like one of the most informed players in the Premier League, if not across European football. It's just sensational what he's doing. It really, really is. So yeah, I've had a lot of humble pie this season, from Ramsdale to now Odegaard. But you know what? I don't care, man. Give me the whole pie. I'm going to eat the whole damn pie. I don't care because look, if he continues to play like he's playing, then he's going to literally orchestrate us into top four. Because when you look at that side now, yes, we can go on about Ramsdale, we can go on about the back four, the importance of Partey, Lacazette's role, the Hale End boys. But if you look at the one player now that's really pulling the strings and really making Arsenal tick as a team, I think he's the one player. And don't get me wrong, there's some really important players in that side. But I think if you took him out that side right now, you would massively notice the difference in terms of us as an offensive unit and going forward. So yeah, massive humble pie. But you know what? I'm glad, because as much as I didn't want him, I wasn't in favor of the signing. I'm here to be proven wrong. You know, I don't have nothing against him. It's just an opinion that I had of the player. The fact that he's come in and he's doing what he's doing, I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm thrilled with it, and I want him to continue it between now and the end of the season and years to come. So yeah, absolutely blown away with his recent performances.
When you think he's only 24, you know, and what he's doing already, you know, his ceiling is so high, and his link-up play with the likes of Saka and stuff's unbelievable. And I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but I know obviously when we spoke about this the other night about the comparisons between him and Ozil, and I don't think it's really a fair comparison. I think he tracks back an awful lot more. You know, you often see him on the edge of his own box.
Yeah.
And he is, you know, he's a number 10, essentially, albeit he's wearing the number 8 in his shirt, but he is a number 10 in that sort of more orthodox number 10 role. But the player, and I've said this before, and I'm sure I'll say it again, and I know you'll back me when I say this, but I don't know if anybody else sees this. For me, he reminds me so much of Fabregas.
Yeah.
In that when Fabregas was in the heart of our midfield, everything went through Cesc.
Yeah.
Everything went through him. And you're starting to see that now, that everything is going through Odegaard. All the build-up play is going through him. And anything good that happens generally goes through Odegaard.
And you know what else? He's propelled himself. Right now, he's propelled himself to the top of many people's lists for captain next season. He has.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, 30 million, whatever we paid for him, an absolute steal.
Well, you know, potentially signing of the season.
Yeah. Edu has absolutely wiped Madrid's eye with that one. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, look, G, it's your best friend popping up.
What's going on, Silver Fox?
Tony, how are you? With you on Odegaard. You give G all the pie.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
Gary, Odegaard at Brighton versus that time. He was great since January, along with the team. He's been great. Not concerned Party and him are playing. Yeah, absolutely. A team in the North London derby. Keith, evening, Keith. Still grafting, but thought I'd drop in and say hi, and don't forget to hit the like if you haven't already. Oh, I see. See what happens once you make him a fully pledged member of Canon Chatter. He remembers to tell people to hit the like button and stuff. Getting right into it there. Yeah, Lee Willock and 5 million for Martin.
Imagine.
You know, it's great. All right. Very quickly then, before we touch on the Liverpool game, because I'm conscious of time. And I did say this is what happens when it's just you and me. We just tend to talk. I want to just refer you to a stat that's been doing the rounds. Corners. This season, we have faced 119 corners and conceded exactly 0 goals from corners. What's your thoughts?
You know what? I was watching the game and I was blown away by this stat. Absolutely blown away. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I was more impressed with, the performance or this stat. In all honesty, equally impressed. That's all I can say, because that is a phenomenal stat. I don't think any of us knew this. Like, I honestly don't think anybody watching the game knew that how good we've become defensively when facing corners. I hadn't a clue. When it came up, I almost looked at it and thought, like, surely that's not right. 119 corners. We've not conceded a goal from a corner this season. And you know what's so remarkable about that stat is, let's face it, as Arsenal fans, over the years and years and years of trauma of being an Arsenal fan in recent years, corners were always our Achilles heel. It doesn't even matter. Like, we could have been bossing a game, you know, having all the shots, all the possession, etc., etc. But as soon as the opposition had a set piece or a corner, there was always that heart in the mouth moment where you thought, you know what, this is going to be a goal. And I remember sitting at home on countless occasions saying, you know what, they're going to score. Not even saying it, but thinking it, feeling it. And lo and behold, it happened time and time and time again. Whether they won the first ball, whether they were first to the second ball, the corners and set pieces, it was always a dodgy thing for Arsenal. It was always our Achilles heel. You know, it was either going to be a goal or it was going to be, you know, squeaky bum time where they might have got, you know, an opportunity or a reasonable effort at goal. So that stat is absolutely phenomenal. And what it does, it just epitomizes and literally just shows you just how good and how much progression has been made, you know, with that team as a defensive unit. It's actually unbelievable. It really is an unbelievable, brilliant stat to have. And I just hope that we've not jinxed it now. And obviously don't go ahead and concede a load of goals from corners. But yeah, you know, for me, all in all, it just shows for me. One, I was absolutely gobsmacked. I couldn't quite believe it. It's a phenomenal stat. And what it does, it just epitomizes just how good we've become as a defensive unit. So, you know, hats off, absolute credit goes to what they're doing, you know, on the training pitch, you know, with the set piece, coach, etc., etc. But yeah, absolutely phenomenal start.
Absolutely. So I'm going to throw this at you. With 12 games to go, we have conceded 10 goals less this season than we did in the whole of last Premier League season. So considering we still have United, Chelsea, Spurs, Liverpool, Villa, our resurgent Newcastle,
West Ham, I think we've got
West
still.
Ham,
yep,
Everton fighting for their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think who else we've got in there.
I think we've got Southampton, haven't we? I think.
Yeah, those games alone.
Yeah.
What are the chances that we only concede 9 goals or less between now and the end of the season? And if we concede more than 10, is there an argument to say that the defence is still better this season than it was last season, despite the fact we concede more goals?
Yeah, it's a tough one because obviously on the surface you look at how many goals are conceded in both seasons. So, you know, you'd look at how many goals we conceded last season in comparison to how many goals we eventually concede in this season. And whichever season we've conceded the least, you know, most people on the surface will say, well, actually, the defense was better then or now. But yeah, it's maybe you know, maybe it will come down to kind of critiquing the defense in different kind of situations within the game, because, you know, obviously from corners, clearly there's a massive improvement. I don't even know what the stats were last year in terms of corners and how many goals we conceded. But maybe that's what's needed. You know, by the end of the season, maybe it's more of a in-depth look at the defense rather than just judging it on goals conceded across 38 games. Probably goals conceded in different kind of scenarios, whether it be like when we were counter-attacked, you know, or like set pieces. Obviously, you know, even though we got the stats with regards corners, but we don't have the stats with regards set pieces or how many goals we've conceded, you know, from open play, from, you know, headers, etc., etc. So I think it's getting to that point now where the team is progressing so well that you can also almost imagine that's what Arteta is doing. You know, when he first came to the club, there were so many issues, so many problems. But now, you know, their analysis and the stuff that they're doing on the training pitch is probably becoming so in depth because they're having to look at the very, very, very finer, small details in terms of games. You know, maybe sometimes even single incidents in a 90 minutes where, you know, a certain player kind of clocked off or wasn't paying attention. So it's a difficult one with the defense. I don't think we can put it down to just how many goals we conceded last season in comparison to this season to judge whether the defense is better or not. I think it's going to be a lot more. I think it's got to be a lot more in depth in terms of like looking at and critiquing it than that, in my opinion.
Okay. I have to confess to being a little bit cheeky with that question. I'm not giving you the full information before I asked it.
Okay.
Because I wanted to get your answer, just to get your opinion without sort of a bias. If you take into account that in the first 3 games of the season we conceded 9 goals, we've only conceded 20 in the 23 games since. So we're conceding at less than a goal a game.
Yeah.
In that time, so the 9 goals in the first 3 games made a massive difference.
Massive, yeah.
And it's funny, I was actually working it out the other day. If we had won those 3 games, when you consider the games in hand that we have, if we had won those 3 games plus won all the games in hand we have, we'd only be a point behind City.
Crazy. It doesn't surprise me.
So
it really doesn't.
Scary stuff. Listen, we'll read a couple of these comments and then we'll move on. John, Odegaard has been immense. He's captain material. Yeah, absolutely. I know G said that as well. And that's something we're going to have a bit of a conversation about. I don't think tonight's not the right time for it.
Yeah.
But I think certainly coming up towards the end of the season, we will do a show where we'll talk about it, because we do need to sort of think going into the next season if Lacazette's not going to be there. I know there's a lot of sort of clamouring, and I'm one of the people that sort of say Tierney, but it'll be interesting. There are now all of a sudden more than one candidate to take the armband, so I think it's something we need to have a wee bit more in-depth conversation about, but we'll do it, as I say, towards the end of the season. I'll just keep talking. G's getting his drinks order in there, sending the waitress into the kitchen. Lee, absolutely. John saw a brilliant video from lockdown. You can hear his influence in the side. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even the way that he was, he's telling Party off the other day, telling Party to get back in the position. So Odegaard has got that strength of character to be a captain, definitely.
Well, he does it at international level, doesn't he?
Yeah. Gio Gunner, Captain Odegaard, good evening, fellas. Sorry I'm late to the show. No worries. Good to have you with us. And any time is better than never. So, right. Listen, let's move on, because obviously conscious time's marching on, and let's have a chat about tomorrow night's game. I hate to use the term, sort of must-win cup final, stuff like that. I hate this idea that we're people. I keep hearing people say, 13 cup finals, 12 cup finals to go. I mean, really, should we not be playing 38 cup finals a season in the league then?
Yeah.
Should we not have this attitude in every single game? There shouldn't be a single game that we don't consider a cup final, if this is the level of performance we're going to get.
I just think it's because nobody expected us to be in this position.
Yeah.
We went into the season, and we went into a lot of these games, particularly after the first 3 games, where we got absolutely, thumped. Obviously, forget the context, but just looking at the results, we got absolutely thumped by Brentford, Chelsea, and Man City. Let's face it, we were going into games just not really expecting much. And I think it's just credit to Arteta and the team that now, we're all beginning to believe. We're all, looking at this top 4 and seeing it as a realistic, potential outcome, to the point where every single game now feels like a cup final. But you're absolutely right. You're in a league, 38 games. Every single game should be a cup final, and that's how it should be approached. The likes of City and Liverpool, that's how they approach it. Every game's a must win.
So I've picked the lineup for Liverpool, and obviously, I think potentially Arteta's opinions and tactics and lineup may well have changed today based on City getting a draw last night against Palace, because it changes things at the top of the table. All of a sudden, Liverpool are coming into this game knowing that a win puts them 1 point behind City, with, for them, less than 10 games to go.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, they've gone from being 10 points behind at the start of the year to potentially 1 point behind if they get the win tomorrow night. So they are going to be up for it. And I know I seen last night, and even our own Lottie was sort of commenting about people, in the meltdown of well, we're going to get stuffed now. But the reality is that Liverpool will be more fired up tomorrow night. Whatever way you look at it, they will be more fired up tomorrow night than they would have been had City have got a win last night. They still would have been potentially, going into the match, and if they win, they're 4 points behind rather than 7 points behind or whatever it would be, or 6 points behind. So they're going to come all guns blazing to try and beat us. Now, for me, that gives us an opportunity. We have the players that can do them on the break, and especially the way they've been playing, the way they've been passing, and the way they've been putting the ball in the back of the net. There's no reason to say we can't get a result tomorrow night. Because they're going to come at us. They are, and we know that, and they have some dangerous players. But again, if our defence plays the way the standard has been playing at against Leicester, we can cope with it. We know Salah's going to be back. When Klopp says things like that, you just don't pay any attention. You know Salah's going to play. So in terms of picking a starting 11, I had said the other night that my sort of thought was you go with your best team against Leicester, you rest a few against Liverpool, and you go with the best team against Villa. I've kind of changed my opinion on that as well. So what I've gone for is essentially the same 11 again, with the exception of if Tommy Asu is available, I think I would put him in instead of Cedric. I just thought Cedric, whilst he's done well the last few games, I thought he did get turned quite a bit on Sunday. Managed to get back and cover himself and, sort the problems out, but he was getting turned. And I just think he may struggle against the likes of Mane, Salah, Jota, Firmino, Diaz. Any of those five that are playing could give him a bit of trouble. So if Tommy Asu's fit and available, I would play him. But other than that, I've gone for the same starting 11. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, you know what? I have to admit, I'm worried about the right back position, even if Tommy does start. And the reason why I say that is because I'm by no means, getting onto Tommy. But I do vaguely remember when he played against Liverpool in the Cup, and he came under heavy criticism. But I think he had just come back from an injury at the time when he played for Arsenal. And to be fair, it wasn't one of his best games. But I remember the Arsenal fan base was massively critical of him. And I even got into quite a bit of a, not a heated debate on Twitter, but I actually put up a tweet and I just said, like, I just thought that the kind of general, reaction of Arsenal fans was by some Arsenal fans was disgusting in terms of what they were saying about him. So I am worried about this right back position because Cedric, as we know, has come in and done a good job. But if we all being completely honest with ourselves, Cedric wouldn't necessarily be the second choice right back or the right back we'd want to compete with Tommy in terms of the first team right back position. So I think he can easily be found wanting. I think Tommy on his day, fully fit, I would be feeling a lot more, a lot more confident. But at the end of the day, there's a massive difference between, training and being fit to being match fit and match ready. So I think personally, depending how the right back situation goes, could be a very, very integral part of the way this game goes. So I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure if I would actually start Tommy. I'm not sure, in all honesty. I think he actually might go with Cedric. But if he goes with Tommy, you know what? We just got to get behind him and hopefully, he is match fit and hopefully he can put in a performance because we've seen him at his best. And when he's at his best, he's an absolute brick wall defensively. So, yeah, other than that, I've got the rest of it for me is not even a talking point or discussion. I think you've pretty much, picked that team in terms of performance, in terms of consistency, that's the team that we have to play. I don't see Arteta, like you, I don't see Arteta changing anything in terms of that those players on that pitch. And I think that's just based, like I said, on consistency, on performances, recent results, and even more so now that, you know, I don't necessarily feel like Liverpool would have approached this game differently, even if Man City had won last night. But you can't ignore the fact that Man City didn't win and have dropped points. So this is a huge opportunity for Liverpool. Absolutely huge opportunity. But as you said, with the way we've been playing offensively, Klopp and Liverpool will be very, very aware of what we can actually do with the ball going forward. So it's going to be a very interesting game, a very interesting game. Potentially, you know, it's got all the credentials to be one of the best games of the season. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, in terms of your lineup, now I can't fault it. Other than the right back situation, I don't have any concerns with regards to players you've picked or the players that I think Arteta will pick. But I do have some concerns about the right back situation, if I'm honest.
Okay. So just before we sort of move on and get score predictions, I want to pick out sort of what I think is the danger man. And
yeah,
you know, there's so many you could pick out in that Liverpool.
Where do we start? I was going to say that.
Yeah, I mean, you could pick Salah, you can pick Mane, you can Diaz, who's just come in and signed. I believe he's got a few goals for them.
Good.
You know, even in the midfield, you've got the likes of, you know, Fabinho, Henderson. You know, there's so many.
Going to be key.
Yeah, there's so many good players in that squad. Now, Liverpool are one of the best teams in the world. Much as I hate to admit it, they are one of the best teams in the world. And tomorrow was a real litmus test of how far we have come. You know, it's great that we're on this great run, but the reality is the one game we've lost in the last however many it is was to City.
Yep.
You know, we now are taking on one of the three teams that are above us in Liverpool, and they are a class act. You know, Liverpool, for me, probably will be there or thereabouts in the Champions League again this year, and they are going to push City right to the very end. So we have a difficult task ahead of us tomorrow. But for me, of all the players that we've talked about with Liverpool, the real danger man is this guy, Jota, who's obviously come from Wolves, and he just loves scoring against Arsenal. He absolutely loves scoring against Arsenal. What can we do to stop this guy from scoring against us?
Just seeing a picture of him, he hurts my head. Like literally, like I saw the picture come up at the bottom of the screen before you poured it on the screen, and I literally just felt like holding my head like this, because this guy just gives us problems. He just gives us problems, and this is the thing with Liverpool. They've just got so many good players in those front three positions, you know, that regardless of who they play, you know, our defense is going to have to be watertight to keep them out. But this guy, you know, when he was at Wolves, I loved him. I thought he was a fantastic player at Wolves, and he was a player that, you know, I really felt like Arsenal we could have gone for, and I would have loved to have seen him, you know, rocking the red of Arsenal. But in terms of what we do to stop him, I ain't got a clue. I'm just glad it's not me with the responsibility to stop him. But yeah, we just got to make sure that defensively we're sound. We just got to make sure that we're absolutely switched on, and you know, we don't give them nothing. I think that's the key. Is we just have to be defensively strong. We've got to be switched on, and the key is to just not give them nothing. You know, in terms of losing possession, misplaced passes, because it's going to be a very tricky game. You know, he's a player. He's very dangerous on the counter. On the counter attack, and you just feel like, you know, there are going to be opportunities in this game. They definitely are, because both teams going forward are looking really, really good. So there's going to be chances. Personally, I hope he starts on the bench. I actually would prefer, as crazy as it sounds, I actually would prefer if I saw Mane on the team sheet than I saw Jota. But we all know at some point he's going to come on. You just know it. God forbid, unless Liverpool are just cruising, they're going to bring him on. And even if they are, they're gonna twist the knife and bring him on anyway. But yeah, in terms of how we stop him, we just got to defensively, put in a good performance as a unit, as a back four. Including Ramsdale, we've just got to be defensively strong. And I think Partey and 34 are going to be key to tomorrow night's game and tomorrow night's result, because we need to win that midfield battle. We saw in the cup the type of performance Fabinho had. We talk about Jota and his goals and so forth, and obviously the strikers and the attacking players always get the plaudits, but he absolutely bossed the game when we played them. Absolutely bullied our midfield, and that's what won them the game. Obviously, Jota, Rolls Royce, put the finishing touches to some nice play. But yeah, Jota's just like one of those players that, as an Arsenal fan, it just gives you nightmares. But yeah, in terms of how we stop him, Stephen, I ain't got a clue, mate. I don't. I just hope that, Arteta and the defense do. I hope they've been watching, video upon video upon video and highlight upon highlight upon highlight and work out some way to keep, Liverpool and particularly Diego Jota quiet. But in all honesty, we just need to put in one of our best defensive performances tomorrow night. And Arteta said it. He said it in his press conference, today. He said, we're going to have to be at our very best if we are going to get a result against Liverpool. And that's even to just get a point, to get a point against Liverpool at home, we're going to have to be at our very best. And if we are at our very best, we can not only get a point, but we can win the game. But it's a big if. We have to be on point. If we put in a defensive display that we did against Watford, then it could get really ugly really quickly. If we put in a defensive display that we did against Leicester, then I'm confident the lads can keep a clean sheet or potentially, keep Liverpool at bay. Maybe allow them, maybe only get one goal in the game. And from what I've seen of us as attacking force, we can definitely hurt them 100%. So, yeah, Diego Jota, I don't know. Maybe he hurts himself on the way to the Emirates.
All right. So, Lee's saying I wouldn't be surprised to see Pepe and ESR in the front line tomorrow. We'll keep the defense and three midfielders the same. And Gio Gunner, I hit Jota's face.
Trust me.
So does G from the sounds of it.
Hurts my head, man, just to see him.
So G, you're saying that, if we're at our best and, we can get a result. How confident are you that we can get a result? Give me your score prediction.
I tell you, I'm a lot more confident than I would have been, however many games ago. Score prediction for this one, geez. I honestly can't see Liverpool not scoring. And I think we have the potential to hurt them. So I'm going to go with what my head is saying. And my head is saying 1-1.
1-1.
I think we'll get a draw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I give my prediction, I have not spoke to Lottie, so I'll message her after or in the morning and get her score prediction for the Predictor League. In terms of the charity bet, first person to drop their score prediction into the chat will use theirs for the charity bet.
Quick.
So while you're doing that, I am going to say I think it's going to be tight.
Yeah.
In terms of, I think it'll be back and forth, nip and tuck, all that sort of talk. I think it'll come down to an odd goal. I do think one team will win. I'm going to go 2-1. And as I never, ever bet on Arsenal to lose, I'm saying 2-1 to Arsenal.
Yeah.
So that is my prediction, 2-1 to the Arsenal. So we're going with Gio Gunner first to get in there with his score prediction 0-0. Wow. Okay.
Mate, you know what? You give me if you gave me 0-0 at the beginning of the match, I'd probably take it. But yeah, I'm actually looking forward to the game. I am looking forward to the game. As much as I might not be feeling that way at the end of the 90 minutes. I'm definitely not approaching, a match against Liverpool with the same, anxiety that many Arsenal fans, would have had kind of at the beginning of the season. So yeah, as much as I'm nervous and I'm stressed about it because we know how good Liverpool are, but I am also actually really looking forward to how, we're going to play against, such a top side because we put in a fantastic performance against City. I actually said it was probably arguably the best performance by a team in the league that didn't pick up any points. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really do believe that the lads are going to put in a performance, regardless of the result. I feel like they're going to put in a performance, and if we can come away from that match with a point, if not 3 points, then yeah, we're well on course for this top 4 finish. But tomorrow night will be a big test.
Okay, so just to let you know that 0-0 is odds of 12-1. So our £1 charity bet would return £13 if it comes in. I've just placed that bet. So fingers crossed we win. But if we don't win, let's hope it's a 0-0 draw.
100%.
All right, so I'm calling last orders at the bar. Anybody has any last questions or comments, get them in now. While we do that, obviously, it's happened again.
Yeah, I know.
You and me, and somehow the show's gone on an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So listen, do the needful.
No problem.
Read out the socials.
No problem. So yeah, thank you for everybody, obviously, who has tuned into tonight's show and who regularly do tune into our channel. Massively appreciate it. We said at the beginning of the show, we'll say it every single show. Callan Chatter wouldn't be anything without you guys tuning in and supporting us and interacting with us. If you don't know already, please do get to know that we are on all the kind of, regular social media platforms. Facebook is at Callan Chatter. Instagram is at Callan_Chatter. And our TikTok is at Callan_Chatter. If you want to follow us on Twitter, where most of you will know us from, please, if you're not following the main page already, that's at Callan Chatter. If you want to follow Stephen, who hosting tonight's show, it's no longer at SB Callan Chatter. It's actually changed, and I know he's editing it as we speak, and he's going to bring it back onto the page. I don't actually know it off by heart, so I'm going to wait until he actually puts it back off, and then I'll be able to let you know how you can follow him. But yeah, if you want to follow myself, I'm at G Talks Arsenal. If you want to follow Lottie, it's at Lottie_B. That's 2 T, 2 I's, because somebody beat her to it. If you want to follow Keith, our newest member, that is at the Mad. I need to get used to this. At the Mad Rambling One, and it's now been updated. If you want to follow Stephen, lovely host for tonight's show, it's at SB Chats. And obviously, most importantly, if for whatever reason you've not subscribed, please do make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've had a bit of an increase on our subs recently. I think we've grown about 10 or 11 subs over the last week, which is fantastic news. We want to continue to grow organically. So thank you for anybody who's recently subbed to the channel. If you're not subbed to the channel, please do subscribe. If you know any other gooners that would be interested in our content, please share our content, have a conversation with them, encourage them to tune in, and please do get them to sub as well. Also turn on those notifications and hit that like button.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so in terms of shows coming up, we will be back on, I believe, Friday night. It'll be G and myself certainly be here. I'm not sure in terms yet of Lottie and Keith, but I know we're also going to be joined back by popular demand Bobby, who has been with us a few times over the last couple of weeks. He will be joining us on Friday night to give his take on the Liverpool game and obviously look ahead to the Villa game.
Which is going to.
Other than that, I'm not sure. We have some stuff planned then for sort of next week, in terms of the international break and stuff. We may be back tomorrow night. I'm not 100% sure. We've been batting about an idea for tomorrow night, possibly. So if we are, keep an eye out on our socials tomorrow. But I'm not making any promises just at this point. We need to just sort of see if it'll work, what we're sort of thinking. So, yeah, with that in mind, G, any final thoughts? Anything else you want to say?
No, just everybody have a brilliant evening. Rest up, get some sleep, because boy, tomorrow night it's going to be epic. So yeah, come on, you Gunners. Do you know what I mean? Let's show these Scousers what's what at home.
Excellent. Okay. As G's already said, listen, guys, thank you so much for your time. Quick comment coming in here. Gio Gunner, cheers, guys. Cheers, Gio. You can always watch the first part of the show back later on. Yeah, as I say, thank you so much, everybody, for your time and for joining us and for your comments and stuff. As G says, come on, you Gunners. And other than that, until next time, keep chatting.